transacción de la ciudad.
Testing.
No, aquí esto tiene el empleo y el número uno. En la lista de bienes para este periodo fue 3,000 y algo. Pero sí, no se trata de el budget, de presupuesto, pero pero hay información de cada cosa de que ver de la ciudad. Pero sí, es un poquito como es muchas cosas. Empiezan, está organizada con la letra A, B, C, D, E, F, G. F empieza con la agenda normal. Y luego acá está con la G. Entonces, estas cosas aquí son como de la policía que ocupan, quieren deshacerse de la ciudad, que hayan algo de la ciudad. Porque los departamentos de la ciudad son la policía, los bomberos, los parques, las finanzas, todos los departamentos de la ciudad. Y todos esos departamentos usan los fondos que uno paga para hacer los servicios. Básicamente la ciudad hace que se vea. Todas las cosas que van a salir esta vez. Y luego, los resolutions. Aquí es donde está la resolution como terminando la plática y haciendo y pasando que esto pase. Entonces, como completar, transfiere de lote vacío. Y eso me quedé. Desde luego, vamos a tratar sí, por eso les digo, es muy importante que la gente sí, pues quién no quiere un pago por esto. A veces, usualmente sí, hacen subasta, pero también quiero decirles que también estas subastas no todo el mundo sabe cómo meterse en un sitio a poner su perro o no sabe de las oportunidades. Cuando están listadas por no voy a decir que estoy como prefiriendo, pero yo sé los beneficios de cuando se lista con un agente de bienes raíces que te publica todo lo más que puede y toda la gente lo puede ver, pero cuando son básicamente la ciudad está todo común y no agarrar no publica pero uno tiene que andar checando verdad que porque estas y luego pues las me gusta eso porque toda la gente se uno trabaja porque cuando la hacen en persona no tiene disponibilidad de venir, ¿verdad? Pero cuando lo hacen en el website uno puede meter ahí la de oferta y si gusta por eso me gusta así también todo ahí está.
Any of the neighbors south. I had like an hour. Guys like to sneak. south on Second, and then out to Center Street off of and the neighbors yeah, so the route of travel. That side, on this side, that's on the west side of town, or south.
I let it go for 2 or 3 minutes. Yep. I let it go 2 or 3 minutes. Pick you up, put you on the hotel. Like an hot second, I want to sleep. And see what he's doing. Actually, when we get to the house together, he'll jump up on the bike and bring up powder.
I got math skills with him.
I showed up like 6 hours later. And I do. They're like, oh, you do it. I thought you were there. Well, my other motto is the Lord we got. It's gonna work out. It's work out. As long as it works out. All the folks
Hi, how are you? Good.
hours worth of drinking at the elbow.
Sorry, you should I grab? Is the relay manager. Oh, okay. Dad is the director of our Main Street group. I hope so too. I did it just
Started a different job than my own.
big city guy.
Good evening. Today's date's October 14, 2024. The time's 5:30 p.m. We're at a regularly scheduled Monday, second and fourth Monday meeting in the Marshalltown City Council chambers at 10 West State Street. We are called to order. Will those of us who can join us in the Pledge of Allegiance stand and do it? Okay, roll call, please.
Fonseca. Here. Kell.
Here.
Lottie Hoff.
Here.
Mitchell.
Here.
Nichols.
Here.
Schneider.
Here.
Thompson.
Here.
Full house, good. I have to read this proviso at each meeting that members of the public may make comments on any item that was not on the agenda at this time. Approach the mic, state your name and address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes unless I authorize longer. You are to direct the comments to the mayor and council as a whole, and the mayor and councilors shall not engage in discussion or debate on items raised by members of the public, and no action may be taken on those items because it would make us fall afoul with the open meetings laws. With that, let's go on to council administrator and mayor comment. I did it again, didn't I? Yes. I haven't. Yeah, it's been a while. I actually called people to the mic the last 2 times. I'm getting too old for this job. The microphone is open.
Kathy Steinberg, 309 Summit Street. And I was going through doing some reading, catching up, and I was going through a City View magazine, which is put out for information about the city of Des Moines. And this is actually from nearly a year ago. And somebody was asking the question about all the new lighting going up in Des Moines and the suburbs. And the answer was that according to the city of Des Moines, the large majority of streetlights in the city are owned and maintained by Mid-American Energy. The goal with these is to typically reduce the city's electric bill, as well as use clean energy. And they go on to talk about the savings and talking about stretching that across thousands of streetlights within city limits, what it's saving the taxpayer. And I was just wondering if there had been any inquiry at all to see if Alliant would match what Mid-American Energy is doing for the city of Des Moines. Excuse me. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mic is still open. We used to do this at the end of the meeting, and I've been doing this up here for so long that I keep going back to that. Yes, sir.
2 things. So I'm Tim Bradbury from 10th Avenue, and I'm all for new projects and seeing the story about the meeting with the Story County administrator and talking about new growth and what we can do. But just keeping back your mind when we just had previous council meetings with talking about the homeless and the lack of funds, that we got so many bonds and different things coming up to just remember that it's a lot of seniors and a lot of people on fixed incomes. They don't get that much big raises to pay for these new projects, but keeping back your mind that we got a problem with, like me getting ready to hit Social Security, and you start thinking ahead, that we don't have a lot of extra funds to work with. Well, the same way with the projects. I'd love to look like Ames or a lot of these other places, but just keep in mind, like Bob Schubert used to say, who's paying for this? And another thing was driving by the old county jail by Goodyear, is I wonder if there can be pressure put on the county, if they still own or not. That looks like trash over there with lights hanging down in the ceilings and the building going to pot. If something should be done, because we want to talk about neighborhoods and everybody else's house, but I think that should be looked at too. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Ray Mitchum, 1402 South 3rd Avenue. I just wanted to mention how I've appreciated a lot of the things that Marshalltown is attempting to do, even though there's lots of challenges and things that not everybody agrees with. But things like, I know the library was advertising a classical guitarist for this Sunday at the library. And it's not too often that you get an opportunity to hear a nationally known classical guitarist come to Marshalltown. This is, I think, his second time he was here, but he had a fantastic concert, and I know the library. Sarah Rosenblum has done a good job with getting those kinds of programs at a public library, and I just appreciate at least the attempt that people are making on getting some well-known people from out of town to come to Marshalltown. So there's lots of good things that are happening, even though most of us would like to see even more. So thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, on to the council administrator mayor comments, where I can comment on the last comment, and because it wasn't proposing anything that would be an action item. Another really good speaker that the library gets every once in a while comes and talks about Iowa history, and I had his name in I wouldn't have started talking if I hadn't known I could come up with his name, and now I'm drawing a blank on it. Sarah, can you help me on that? Tom?
Are you talking about Jeff Stein?
No, not Jeff Stein. He's from western Iowa, and yeah, his brother was my English professor at the University of Iowa. He taught down in Lamoni. His brother's with Farm Bureau. I can remember all that stuff, but I can't remember his last name. Anyway, the last program he gave, he also played the piano very well and sang, but he did a history on early agriculture in Iowa. It was just kind of fascinating. So you'll publish it next time you get him back here, and I'll let you know about 2 a.m. when I come up with the name. I'm going first this time. I usually try to go last and have rebuttal, but boy, was it a good weekend. If you're a Bobcat follower or you're a Hawkeye fan or a Cyclone fan like I am, it was just a great weekend. This is a proclamation that Melissa had suggested that we do this year because today is Indigenous Peoples Day. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's on the website, but I will comment on it that we've had a really good working relationship with the Sac and Fox tribe, the Meskwaki tribe over in the Tama County area. Years ago, I got to represent them on several different things when they had an insurance company that had me to go over there, and so I got to meet the people that run it. And it's the largest one in Iowa, and they have kept their community going, and they've got quite an attraction. We try to have tourism here in Marshalltown, and having that casino over there as it's run and the places to stay have been good for our local economy. So I invite you to go to our website and read the proclamation itself. That's all I have to say. So anybody else up here?
Your Honor, for me?
You may.
Yeah, this past Saturday, they had a bunch of emergency vehicles at the Hy-Vee parking lot. They had helicopters come in, and a real good turnout from the city. Kids got to play on the different apparatuses, and the fire department was there. Chief Tupper's guys were there. Emergency management was there, and a real excellent time educational-wise so that people could get to know what stuff looks like so that when they see it out in action, they don't feel compelled to go and see what's happening that they already know. And just kudos goes out to Hy-Vee. They had free hot dogs, hamburgers, water, a real good turnout. So thank you to all those.
Very good. Anyone else? Okay, let's go on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve it? Oh, we have to remove an item from it. I forgot which number that was. Minus number 4. Does anybody approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Second.
Very good. Roll call on this one.
Lottiehoff,
Yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Fonseca. Yes. Cal.
Yes.
Very good. That carried. We don't have to read it all, but we then solicit a motion on number 4.
Move to approve, Your Honor.
All right, is there a second on that one?
Second.
Let's have you read what it is.
Resolution 2024-211, approving the Marshalltown Police Department found bicycle disposal policy.
Mr. Thompson, I think you pulled this off today, so let's have a discussion about that.
Well, I was two different individuals. One reached out to me, not sure who else he reached out to, which is Larry Atcher, who's in our engineering department. And then also, I think everybody got the email from Bobby Kennedy down in Des Moines with Street Collective that they're both interested in taking the bikes and repurposing them and keeping all of them out of Gervich. So I know Larry will talk, and I'll say a few things. But before Larry talks, I just want to say, I called Gervich today, and using an average bike is 18 pounds, we would get 45 cents per bike is what the city would get for junking them. So if we can find somebody to take those bikes and save us the trip of going down there, if we can get someone that'll come more often than not and get them out of the way of the police department, I think it's a win for everybody. Keep them out of the waste stream. So I will turn it over to Larry if he's willing to talk about it.
Hello, my name's Larry Atcher. I work for the city. I think a lot of you guys know who I am. I'm an inspector. A few years ago, you guys had an auction down there to get rid of a lot of bicycles. I went down there with the intention to buy 2 for some neighbor kids, and ended up I brought home 82 bicycles. Me and my brother set up a assembly line out front of my shop. I bought boxes and boxes of tubes, and I took every bike and we put them together so they all worked for kids, and every kid in our neighborhood, I live in Laurel, got free bikes, and the word got out, and I had people calling me. Every kid that would show up got a free bicycle. Everybody. If the parents needed a bicycle, I don't care how nice a bike it was, so they could ride with their kid, they'd get them for $10 just to help fund what I had invested in for tubes and changing stuff over, and it's a lot of work. But there's a lot of kids out there that their families don't have much. And for a little kid to get a bicycle or whatever, it just makes them so happy. And it's amazing. There was a program that at East Marshall, my sister was involved in, where they have a program when parents can't afford stuff for Christmas, they buy presents and stuff. And my sister called me up and says, "Do you still got a lot of bicycles?" And I said, "Yeah, I still have some." They had a family that 3 boys. They were so ecstatic to get a bicycle for Christmas, and I gave it to them. And I had people from Tama and Newton. I had them coming from all over. And I really don't want to see, some of these bikes aren't expensive, but I hate to see them go to Gervich because there's some kids out there that need it, and I'm willing to help get it to them. And if it means me taking over and getting the bikes every so often, I'll put it out there that I'll fix them and I'll make them good for the kids. And then I take and cut up, because there's a lot of bikes I might have to take the seats off them or the tubes off or the tires and change them over so I can put one together. But that's what I've done, and it's been a lot of fun. It gets you right here. So I would be willing to help take care of the bike problem. If there is somebody else that wants to do it, fine, but I don't want to see them go to Gervich because there's a lot of kids there's a lot of needy people out there, and I'd like to help them. That's what I'd like to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow.
Your Honor, if I may follow up on that real quick?
Sure may.
In Bobby's email, he said he would either be willing to take this on himself through their organization in Des Moines, which feeds all the suburbs and other communities, but he also made the point that if there is somebody here in Marshalltown, he would have the expertise and the resources to help somebody get set up, here in town. So I guess I'm asking that we direct staff to contact Bobby and also talk with Larry. And I don't even think this needs to go out for a bid. It's such a small amount. I think we can just contract this out, and work with the police department that anything that we can put a bike under somebody is better than it going to Gervich, is my hope.
More comment? I guess usually the way I do it is anybody up here have any comments first, and then we go public?
Mike Tupper, Marshtown Police Department. So I'd just like to point out that the policy allows the police chief to donate the bikes to a charitable cause. It's clearly stated in the policy. So, and Bobby Kennedy called me last week. He wasn't interested in all 90 bikes, but I told him I'd be calling him tomorrow morning, letting him know what the council decided with this policy. So I don't have a problem. Nobody at the police department has a problem donating the bikes to Bobby Kennedy, or if the engineering department wants to take over the bike problem, they can take over the bike problem. I don't have a problem with that either. But we can't, it's a horrible waste of law enforcement resources, what we're doing right now. So I'm in favor of donating the bikes if somebody wants them, and we're just looking for approval from the council to pass this policy to allow me to do that. And then we're not going to keep the bikes as long as we've been keeping them. We'll get rid of them on a more regular basis. So if this policy passes and you direct me to give them all to Larry Atcher, he can come pick them up tomorrow morning. Otherwise, I will be calling Bobby Kennedy in the morning and telling him that he can come pick up the bikes. But we can't continue to do what we've been doing, and so we're trying to solve a problem and actually save the city some money and some time. So, so I just want to make sure that the council understands that the policy, as presented, allows the police chief to donate the bike, have the bikes, to give the bikes to somebody that's going to use them for a charitable cause. And in lieu of that, we're going to scrap them.
I doubt we need to make sure there's a, 501c3
Right.
charitable organization for something like that either.
No, I would agree with that. But again, it's not appropriate for the police chief just to make decisions. We need a policy. And that's what this policy does, is allows, gives the police chief some direction about what to do with the bikes.
Any other questions or comments for the chief?
Your Honor, if I may.
You may.
So Chief, after the first 6-month period, to the first bike, then would you be expecting someone to pick these up on a monthly basis then? Or what would you like to see, how often they be picked up?
Well, I won't be here, but, so that'll be for the next chief to decide. But in my discussions with staff, every 6 months, we're going to clean out the bike room. That's been the goal. We do want to hold the bikes for a little while, just in case somebody's missing a bike and they try to claim it, okay? But that rarely happens. It just blows my mind that people lose a bike and they don't come claim it. But in my discussions with staff, the goal would be every 6 months we would clean out the room.
Your Honor, may I?
You may.
Chief, can you let us know how many bikes you have?
90 plus right now.
90 plus?
Yeah.
Okay. And so then with the policy, you would get to, call these individuals that want to help out and,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Sounds good.
And I would love to do that. We want to, if somebody can use these bikes, more power to them. But I think there's a reason people aren't claiming them too.
Okay. It's a lot better if you swallow that instead
Dave
of inhale the
Grieve,
tea.
2327 South Fifth Avenue. Great ideas, love it. One step further, can the high school shop class have a rebuild class to rebuild the bikes, learning hand skills, and then they could go to elementary schools where the kids are at? Just a thought. But we are missing hand skills in schools, CTE skills. Have the kids fix the bikes. Simple machinery, easy to fix, learn. Idea.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anybody up here want to make a motion to direct staff?
I'll move we approve this, I'll call the question.
Thompson?
Yes.
Fonseca?
Yes.
Kell?
Yes.
Lottie Hoff?
Yes.
Mitchell?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
Schneider?
Yes.
Very, very good. Thank thank you. All right, what's our next order of business here in the resolutions?
Resolution 2024-212, setting a public hearing for the conveyance and transfer of title of a city-owned vacant lot.
Move to approve.
Second. Calling for a second.
Second?
Thank you. Is now discussion.
Yes, Your Honor, the city solicited sealed bids for the vacant lot at 817 to 819 North Fifth Ave. We would convey that by quitclaim deed. We had bids due on October 9th. We received 2 bids. The high bid on the property was from Gary Thompson for $16.36. The second bid was $1.
Discussion up here?
Your Honor, may I?
You may.
Carol, could you let us know if this is considered surplus property right now?
You have to press the button.
It's been declared surplus.
Yeah, there you go.
Has it been declared surplus? I just was asking, before the city can sell city property, it has to be declared surplus. Has the property been declared surplus?
I would have to look back and see if we ever approved a resolution for that.
I know there were 2 occasions where the council directed staff to list it for sealed bid.
Correct.
A sealed bid process. So I'd have to look and see if that in and of itself is a declaration of surplus or if there needs to be a specific resolution for that. But I do know that council has taken 2 actions on the property already.
Okay, sounds good. The reason why I was asking is when I was looking at the policy for the sale of surplus real property, it just states that the city may not make gifts of public property, meaning the city may not dispose of real property for less than its fair market value. So $16.36 is not fair market value. It's for 2 parcels, 2 pieces of real estate. In my opinion, as a real estate broker, it's not fair market value. And so then I did ask, where do the funds, when they get sold, where do those funds go? And I learned that they go to the dangerous and dilapidated fund. And so, Carol, you let me know that it's for acquisition, demolition, and restoration of dilapidated and dangerous properties. But I think that the Marshalltown community that is interested in buying, I think that it's important that these real estate opportunities are more widely promoted and transparent to ensure that the entire community has a fair chance to participate. This low exposure here concerned me, showing that it might be not a lack of interest, because if we all got a chance to buy 2 parcels of real estate for $16, we would probably jump at it. So it's a lack of awareness, I believe, and that's why I will be voting no.
Other comments up here?
Your Honor?
Yes.
Mine's more of not a technicality or getting into the nuts and bolts of the procedure. It's more about a belief in the direction of our community and what a sale at this dollar amount, or truthfully, a lot of our vacant lots, what those sales are, is almost a validation that what we have isn't valuable. The Carl Auto Group, with their investment, I think would strongly dispute that. Us opening up the industrial park through the Edgewood extension is proof that we believe in our future and what we're about to start at Riverview. I think the future value of this land far exceeds what we've received in this round of sealed bids or any other. And Councilor Thompson did everything right. This isn't an implication on him or what he did. It's I think the future value of this property is greater than what we've received, and I'm willing and believe we should wait until we can realize what that value is. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments up here?
Your Honor, if I may?
You may.
In the past, we've been just taking the high bids, so I don't see why we should refrain from this. I mean, everybody had a chance to bid on it if they wanted it. So I think it should just go ahead and go in as we see it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Not up here. We'll invite the public to comment on this one. And let's call the roll.
Your Honor, may I? Before?
You may.
We've just sold a bunch of properties at open bid, so what exactly is our, I mean, we had a lot of lots, and we just did bid. So that's my question, because I think Marshalltown's worth more than that too. But why were we unloading all those properties when we saw what the bids were? If there's any explanation, I know we just had a lot on the books, and we probably were cleaning it up, but does anybody have any explanation?
You may.
Okay, so we did talk a little bit about, usually when you're determining fair market value, there are different ways to arrive at that. One is to get an appraisal of the property. One of them is to utilize the assessed value, but you can also just do it to who the high bidder is. That's a legal way to determine what the fair market value is of something. So I think the city, and I wasn't here when you sold a lot of these properties, but I think the goal was to get those properties out of the city's hands, out of the cost of maintaining those properties, and hopefully realize some tax valuation from any development on the property. So I think all those factors considered, it looks like we have accepted bids that were less than maybe the assessed value of a property, but with the idea of getting to that end point of increasing taxable valuation. So I don't think the city's done anything wrong in those situations. I think that is an acceptable way to deal with surplus property.
Your Honor, if I may?
Right.
This is the same situation as if you have a classic car. It's only worth what you can get out of it. So property is only the value of what you can get out of it. Sometimes you get more, sometimes you get less.
Anybody else up here? Otherwise, I'll call on the public if there are comments. I guess I have a couple too. I know the taxable value is enough to provoke something like a $16,000, or it's an assessed value of $16,000, so the taxes will be paid on that, and ordinarily people will have to pay insurance on it. So, it sounds like an $18 investment is probably a bigger burden than that for the winning bidder. And then there have been times where we've actually hired realtors to try to market our properties, but because of the number that we've had in the open lots and trying to get developers to come up and build on single lots or even double lots without much success, I think that's why the staff went to the bidding process, just to throw that out there for what I've seen over the last 12 years up here. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and call the roll on this one then.
Mitchell?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
Schneider?
Yes.
Thompson?
I need to abstain due to a conflict of interest.
Fonseca?
No.
Kell?
No.
Lottie
No.
Okay. Tie vote? Doesn't carry. Back to staff. Okay. Let's go on to the next resolution.
Resolution 2024-223, accepting bid and authorizing the award of contract for the 6th Street Trail Project TRL 18002 in the city of Marshalltown, Iowa, in the amount of $214,255 to Howery Construction.
Move to approve, Your Honor.
Second.
Discussion on this one.
Jeff Hubbard, your Park and Rec Director, for 42 more minutes. Unless the mayor talks a lot longer. We accepted bids, or we had bids turned in on October 8th, last Tuesday, and there were 12 bidders on the project. After reviewing the bids, the low bidder, which was $209,000 to TK Concrete, they made an error in their unit quantity. Instead of $5.50, they did $550. And in the contract itself, it says that if there's any discrepancies, the unit price is the deciding answer. So we ran that through legal, and they agreed. So due to that technicality, the next low bidder is $214,000 for Howery Construction, and that will be to complete the trail from the 6th Street Trail Bridge up through the Legion, behind Wayward Social, and up to Freedom Rock. And that is within the budget that we have. The engineer's estimate were $309,000. I think we have $225 left in the project, so we're under budget to see that get done.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, I voted later, I'm guessing later, and Alicia's guessing earlier tonight, so I do kind of have to shut up, don't I?
Well, I keep on talking longer. I mean, I'm at the mic for as long as I want, right?
Yeah. No, I'm going to put that 3-minute timer on you. Comments up here. We are going to miss you, though, damn it.
I'm going to miss you all, too.
Comments out there? Roll call.
Nichols?
Yes.
Schneider?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Fonseca?
Yes.
Kell?
Yes.
Lottie
Yes.
Mitchell?
No.
Very good. That one carried. What's our next one? Public hearing.
Public hearing and resolution 2024-224 approving the interlocal grant agreement for the Iowa Burn Justice Assistance Grant Program for $15,764, split 50% with Marshall County to assist with law enforcement programming or equipment purchases, and approval of a memorandum of understanding to share the grant funds with Marshall County.
Thank you.
I just want to move.
Well, I declare the public hearing is open at 6:03 PM, and the written comments weren't received by the clerk, right?
No, Your Honor.
Time for public comments. I doubt there will be any. Nobody's standing up to talk yet, and so then it goes on to staff review. Chief. Thank you. I don't feel quite as bad about, trying to cut everybody off tonight.
Can I talk as long as I want?
No,
Okay.
absolutely not.
All right. Good evening. Mike Tupper, Marshalltown Police Department again. So every year we receive from the federal government an allotment of funds through the Burn Jag Fund or grant program. It's usually around $15,000, fluctuates a little bit, and we're required to split that amount with the Marshall County Sheriff's Office. So you have documents in your packet, memo in your packet, regarding the grant program and what we plan to do with the money. This will be a continuation of a project that we started last year to upgrade some handguns and optic equipment that is installed on the handguns to assist our officers with their duties and to make sure that they're doing so as safe as possible. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, but everything's kind of laid out in the packet.
It's an interesting piece in the packet about the optics. Anybody up here? Questions or comments?
I'm getting old, by the way. I wish I would have had this stuff when I was a young officer. I probably need it now with my old man eyesight, but it's good equipment.
Just wait till you have trifocals and hearing aids.
Yeah, I'm not quite there yet.
Any public comment on this one? Oops, I already did that, sorry. Staff review, council comments now. I'll declare the public hearing is closed at 6:05 PM, and now is there a motion to approve?
I so move. I'll second.
Roll call.
Fonseca?
Yes.
Kell?
Yes.
Lottie
Yes.
Mitchell?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
Schneider?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Very good, carried. Thanks for the good work there, too. On to ordinances. Got a few of those. What's our first one?
We have a motion to untable ordinance 15092 to amend the Code of Ordinances, City of Marshalltown, Iowa by repealing Chapter 72 parking rules and adopting a new code section for Chapter 72 parking rules.
Move to approve, Your Honor.
Second.
Discussion on this one.
Good evening, Heather Thomas, Public Works. This ordinance amendment has been revised based on our discussion at the last meeting. We talked about the allowance of a parking pad. I've outlined that section and requirement that we discussed last meeting.
Oh, I have to interrupt you, Heather, sorry. Fortunately, she can't kick me up here because it would look bad.
All right.
There was a motion to, we needed a motion to untable it first, just as a formality,
Got it.
since she's in charge of the minutes. Is there a motion to take it off the table?
Yes, we have a,
We
we have it on the table. Okay, so I'm going to call the roll.
Second. Thank you.
Kell.
Yes.
Lottie Hoff.
Yes.
Mitchell.
Yes.
Nichols.
Yes.
Schneider.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Fonseca. Yes.
Be glad to know, it isn't just with staff that there's a countdown. I've only got 1 year and 3 months and 17 days left myself. Okay, and now you can continue with your discussions.
No, I need
to go now.
to read this.
Oh,
Ordinance 15092 to amend the Code of Ordinances, City of Marshalltown, Iowa by repealing Chapter 72 parking rules and adopting new code sections for Chapter 72 parking rules. First reading.
that's why I had it as 1 and 1.1, I see, okay. Is there a motion now to?
I so move.
Thank you,
Second.
all right.
Sorry about that.
My fault.
Now it's my turn. Heather Thomas, Public Works.
I know you can't talk as long as you want either.
Trust me, I can go sit down. I'm good with that. Parking pad, the discussion we had last time, this is the allowance of the 324 square foot or the maximum of the combined allowed between that square footage and the accessory building allowed by zoning code. Other things we talked about was material. It's going to be for concrete, asphalt, and pavers. The other items I don't think were an issue, so that is what's presented in front of you for the allowance of a parking pad. The other section of Chapter 72 we are recommending changing is related to the vehicles allowed to park in municipal parking lots. When Planning and Zoning reviewed Chapter 72, one of their suggestions was to find all of the locations where the terminology of vehicles, trailers, and those types of terms were used and change them all to vehicles, trailers, and recreational vehicles. They did so in the municipal parking lot section, which allowed recreational vehicles and trailers to park in municipal lots. So we've corrected and adjusted that and noted that semi-trucks, construction equipment, trailers, and recreational vehicles cannot be left overnight in municipal lots. With that, I'll open it up for questions.
Any up here?
Heather, I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Go for it.
I'm troubled by this just because I know a lot of people that have trailers and things like that, and they park them on gravel pads in the back, something like that. And it seems like we're starting to almost outprice people a little bit. I know even the pavers, 324 square foot, you can get $150 worth of gravel will probably work, as long as you take care of it. It would be nice if everybody could put in concrete or asphalt and all that kind of stuff, but some people just can't. So that's the only trouble that I've got with it.
That's fair. Chapter 72 in today's language would not allow any type of a parking pad, whether it's gravel or other. So the addition of this provision is an increase in allowing the public to do more with their property. And obviously that's council's direction, whether a granular material would be allowed to the list of allowable materials as shown.
Your Honor, may I? Heather, could you please explain that 30% measurement in relation to the lot size and the backyard? I remember you had talked about that the last time. Could you explain that, please?
I will do my best in the absence of a city planner and housing community development director. But in their zoning code, there is a provision for accessory buildings that's allowed in a rear yard. I have that table included in my memo. I'm going to make that a little larger for everybody to see. So based on your lot size, there is a maximum floor area for what is allowed in a rear yard. So if you look at a property and it has a rear yard measurement of 30 by 60, the maximum that you could put in there for an accessory structure like a detached garage or a shed would be the lesser of 30% of that area, or 1,000 square foot if you're on one of the small properties. So when we look at that 30% number, let's say that provision says that you can only have 200 square foot of a shed, so a 10 by 20 shed. You would look at that before permitting a parking pad to make sure that either a combination of a detached garage or shed or this parking pad does not take up their entire backyard. You're still limited to that 30% of the rear yard space that's available. Did that make sense, or if you have questions?
Yeah, so am I right to say that, like, you're basically your backyard, like what you have for green space, like it has to be the parking pad or the accessory structure needs to be a third of the 30%? Let me explain that part. Am I there? Am I getting there?
You're getting there. No
Okay.
more than 30% of that.
No more than 30. Okay.
Yep.
Got it. And then, Heather, can you please let us know about, what exactly the accessory structure entails, like the shed, workshop, like what else it'll be the parking pad or the accessory structure, right?
Right. An accessory structure is a building, a structure, a carport, those types of buildings that are not attached to your property. So an attached garage is not considered an accessory structure. So it would be any standalone secondary building on a residential property would be considered an accessory structure.
So then if a property owner has a detached garage, then if their yard meets that 30% or more requirement, they would be able to put a parking pad with their detached garage?
If they have a detached garage, you'd use the footprint of the detached garage as part of the measure so that you're not exceeding that. So if you already have a 200 square foot detached garage and you have a lot that can support that, we would take that into account in the 30% measurement. So you would still potentially be allowed for 324 square feet of a parking pad as long as the two combined, so the 324 parking pad and the 200 square foot detached garage, those two combined do not exceed that 30% cutoff.
Okay, so then it would have to be a bigger lot size, right? Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Other questions or comments by the council? Any public comment?
Hello, Jim Shaw, 522 North Second Street. I'd like to know when this goes into effect. Is it right after this meeting? And are we going to give people like a grace period before they do this? Because people just can't run out and do that. Some people got to save money in order to be able to pour blacktop or concrete. They can't write a check for $2,000, $3,000. So do we have something in place where they can, get a grace period? That's all I want.
This is the first reading of the ordinance. If it passes tonight, we would propose the second reading at October 28th, the third reading November 11th. It does not go into effect till after it's published in the newspaper, so this ordinance would not go into effect till probably mid-November at some point. As far as a question of whether there's a grace period or not, the parking pad, I think, is probably what was being referred to, since there is no current parking pad allowed. It's not a grace period per se, because we're not changing anything. We're adding the option. So if there is a yard parking violation in today's ordinance that's being enforced, this would not change that or take that ability to continue to enforce yard parking after this is passed.
Thank you.
So Heather, just if I'm wrong, so basically we're adding a feature They're in violation now if they are parking back there, so this is just giving them more grace, correct?
Other public comment?
Linda Clark, 306 South Second Avenue. I looked at the ordinance and I thought that it made a comment that it was grandfathered in 2010, something like that. The older properties, it would not be affecting them. I'd like to have clarification, ask that question. And just like Mr. Shaw had said, there's a lot of persons that couldn't just do a parking pad, you know, with the way it is. I have a nice large yard. In fact, it's 60 by 180 feet. But I'm working on gardening for the backyard, and I've lived there for quite some time, but I would like to have clarification. Is there grandfathering in of older properties? Because I was under the impression it was like new people doing new properties. Could I have clarification, please, on that? Heather, thank you.
The section of Chapter 72 that references a date back in 2010 is related to a surface material of a driveway. So currently, if they have a gravel driveway is grandfathered in, but there are no provisions for a parking pad.
Question on Church Street, and I
Just
believe...
for people watching, probably-
Tim Bradbury, 12 North 10th Avenue. A question about big utility vehicles using the city parking lots overnight out there on Church, and I believe 2nd Street area, that's every night. And so I'm assuming the people must live there in new apartments there on Main or something. But is that supposed to clear that up and them not be allowed to park their big trucks like that out in the parking lot overnight? It's been going on for some time. There's at least 2 or 3 that's...
This provision of the ordinance change would correct that. We have been having issues in public parking lots where some of those types of vehicles are parking overnight for people who live in the area, or even people who live many blocks away that are transferring vehicles as a place to store construction equipment overnight. So this recommendation is intended to entail that or curb that.
Unfortunately, all the people that are working on fixing up State Street and finally finishing, they get to park their stuff now until at least sometime in November, right? We get that done.
In the ordinance, there is a provision that says unless authorized by the Public Works Director, and that is intended for construction projects.
There you go, okay, thanks. Other public comment on this one? If not, let's call the roll.
Your Honor, if I may.
You may.
Other people, citizens have reached out to me also that I was against gravel as being one of the materials for the parking pad. The pad is not going to be connected to the alleys, the streets, or anything. It's a standalone. So I would like to make the amendment that under B, item 2, material, the parking pad shall be concrete, asphalt, solid brick pavers, or gravel. Make that as an amendment.
I will treat that as a motion to amend. Is there a second to the motion to amend?
I'll second that.
I think we've had enough discussion. Let's go ahead and call the roll on the amendment to add gravel.
Mitchell?
No.
Nichols?
No.
Schneider?
No.
Thompson?
Yes.
Fonseca?
Yes.
Kell?
No.
Lottiehoff?
Yes.
I lost count. Failed for, okay. Then let's go to the original motion and call the roll on that.
Kell?
Yes.
Lottiehoff?
No.
Mitchell?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
Schneider?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Fonseca?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We've had the first reading. We'll get the second reading up here and probably have more discussion. What's our next? And that did carry for the record. Next one.
Ordinance 15093, amending ordinance number 13657 relating to partial property tax exemptions for industrial property on which improvements have been made, providing a schedule of tax exemption, and setting for the procedure to obtain the same. Third reading.
Move to approve.
Second. The discussion on this one.
I'm Cindy Hendel, helping the city for time being here. This is one of the ordinances that has been on the books for a very long time, but it had not been updated to include certain kinds of development that have become very popular in the last 20 years. So by adding those types of development that would be able to receive tax abatement, the council then could grant that application should they feel that it would be appropriate. Again, there's still a review of the abatement application that comes to the council. It's not just an automatic. Any questions?
Questions or comments up here? Any public comment? Roll call on this one.
Kell.
Yes.
Lottiehoff.
Yes.
Mitchell.
Yes.
Nichols.
Yes.
Schneider.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Fonseca. Yes.
Another motion to follow?
Ordinance 15094 to amend the Code of Ordinances, City of Marshalltown, Iowa, Chapter 118, peddlers, solicitors, transient merchants, definitions and fees, first reading.
Move to approve.
Second.
Ario. Discussion.
Yes, Your Honor. So this amendment will just revise the definition of a transient merchant. Currently, it is identified by being self-contained motorized or a trailer. We would like to amend the definition to have it be any person, firm, or corporation who engages in merchandising business that requires a state of Iowa mobile food license. So this would include things like pedal carts, which have been brought to town. It would also amend the language on regarding how the fees were set and just generalize it so they could be adopted by resolution so we can make changes as needed by resolution instead of doing an ordinance amendment. We have new utility providers in the area and they are interested in getting license for solicitors and peddlers for a year at a time. So that would be something we would like to bring forward to council. Additionally, we do request the waiver of the second and third reading if it is approved.
Discussion up here. Public discussion on this one?
Dave Grieb, 2327 South Fifth Avenue. Peddlers, is that trinket salespeople too that set up a pop-up tent and sell? Is that considered, you have to have a sales license for the city? Or is it just food? Because the amendment says it's all about food. Is it more about food or just anything you're selling?
Transient merchants are for food sales and peddlers, well, they could also sell directly to your door, but they are more do the door-to-door sales for direct sale of goods. A peddler and a solicitor does. They do door-to-door.
Because, you know, like all these little things we have downtown, people set up a booth and they sell stuff, trinkets. So do they have to have a permit too?
It should be licensed through the state to do that sort of
Okay.
activity.
But this is more city is wanting this for the food people, because the food people would have to be licensed through the state, right?
Correct.
So this is the city's wanting something also.
Yes, this is a standing license that we've always had. It's just revising the definition. They've always been required to be licensed through the state and through the city.
So do trinket salespeople have to have this city license too?
I'm not really sure what type of sale you're referring to.
You go to a street fair and somebody's selling trinkets.
Yes, so those are licensed through an event license.
Okay.
The event organizers have to
A
be
different
licensed through the
ordinance.
state. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Does that mean I have to quit selling pencils on the corner?
Yes.
Other questions or comments by the public? Ready for roll call?
Nichols?
Yes.
Schneider?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Fonseca?
Yes.
Kell?
Yes.
Lottie Hoff?
Yes.
Mitchell?
Yes.
Anybody brave enough to move to,
Your Honor,
waive the-
I'd make a motion to waive the second and third readings of this motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Fonseca?
Yes.
Kell?
Yes.
Lottie Hoff?
Yes.
Mitchell?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
Schneider?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
That carried. And we have one more ordinance before we go on to discussion.
Ordinance 15095 to amend Table 156.B.004-1 and Section 156.J.005-1D1 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Marshalltown, Iowa. First reading.
Move to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
The discussion.
Okay, John Boston, 1710 Rainbow Drive, Chairman, Planning and Zoning Commission. You've got two items in here. One is a correction. The city has used special use permits for a long time that go to the Board of Adjustment. For some reason, 2.5 years ago, when we rewrote the planning and zoning ordinance, the consultant put in there that we had to do a public hearing at the zoning level and the Board of Adjustment. It doesn't make sense to have two public hearings. It adds cost to the city, it delays it. We've never done it that way. So that takes the public hearing out and just says, planning and zoning will make a recommendation to the Board of Adjustment. The reason we do that is when we originally started doing special use permits, planning and zoning didn't see them. And they would end up at Board of Adjustment, and the Board of Adjustment had all kinds of questions about things like setbacks, accessory buildings, other things related to planning and zoning. So we just routinely review them and then make our recommendation to Board of Adjustment. They can follow it or they can ignore it. It's up to them. The second thing is that you saw this table. This table is for what is allowed in different housing districts. Several things were left off the table, so we added those back in. It was townhouse and apartments were added back into the conventional medium residential, single-family attached apartments, manufactured home parks, and permitted non-residential uses were left off of medium residential infill. All of the single family was left out of high density, which doesn't make sense at all. And so that was the changes. So it's basically just corrections. We are working on more corrections to come and changes, but it's going to be probably another month or so before you see those. Any questions?
Comments or questions up here?
Your Honor, may I? So I think you said that 2.5 years ago was when it was decided that both P&Z and the Board of Adjustments hold the public hearing?
It was when we rewrote the zoning ordinance 2.5 years ago. I think there was something like a huge number of things that we changed, and it was a total rewrite. And the consultant used the same language for planning and zoning in the paragraph that they used for the Board of Adjustment, and they shouldn't have. They should have just said Planning and Zoning reviews it, and that's where the language you saw.
Okay.
That's being corrected.
Okay, so it was more of,
It's a
your
correction.
opinion, they shouldn't have put it on there, but, I mean, did they put it on there for a reason, for both
We don't
places
know.
to do public hearings?
Maybe they do it that way in Chicago, but we've never done it that way here.
What is the benefit of doing a public hearing for the Board of Adjustments and P&Z for the public?
We don't see any benefit at all. It'd be like the city council doing two public hearings and instead of 3 readings and one of them being a public hearing, that would make you do a public hearing on 2 of the 3 readings.
Your Honor, may I make a comment?
You may.
So the state of Iowa code does outline that you only have to have a public hearing at the Board of Adjustment. It doesn't require it at the P&Z level.
Okay, thank you, just wondering.
And then Board of Adjustment doesn't meet as frequently or regularly
No.
as the planning and zoning. By the way, do you know that we posted a job to have a new city planner?
Good.
I know you tried to retire from Emerson, but. Okay.
And we do appreciate all the work you put in for all these
Exactly.
years to get all this kind of stuff together.
No kidding. Other questions or comments up here, though? Public comment on this one? A roll call it is.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Fonseca. Yes. Kell,
Yes.
Bodyhoff.
Yes.
Carried, and thanks again for all that work. And you got a good committee working with you too, John. Your institutional knowledge really helps. Okay, discussion items, and we only have one of those, and that's about downtown grants. Who wants to start the lead on this one?
Good evening, Heather Thomas, Public Works. We've had a lot of discussions in previous council meetings, especially over the last year and a half, about downtown and increasing pedestrians downtown. We've talked in several meetings through the Main Street project over the last 18 months about making alleys more inviting for pedestrians, especially since they're going to need to use those more often as we get into those downtown projects, moving off of State Street and getting into the more populated business areas of East and West Main and Center Street. So we talked about what it could be where the city can work in a private and public partnership collaborative effort. We know the city going in and making all of these improvements in alleys is not the most cost-effective way to do some of these improvements downtown. And we also believe that the businesses downtown have a vested interest as well into making these improvements on their property. So we created 4 objectives. Improve rear access for public and ADA compliance. Increase alleyway lighting, increase containment of refuse and recycling, and increase security camera coverage. Those are 4 things we've heard over time in the last 2 years while I've been here that would be a priority for downtown. As we looked at our current programs, we have a code grant and a facade grant where the city funds those through our TIF Urban Renewal Area Number 4. And they're facilitated through the leadership at Marshalltown Community Central Business District. We felt after discussion that some of these objectives and private public partnerships for those 4 objectives could be handled in a very similar manner, and looked at modifying one of their grant programs and potentially adding an additional grant program through that program. And so with that, I'm going to turn this over to Deb to talk about those possibilities for council consideration.
Deb Millizer, Director of the Marshalltown Central Business District, 34 West Main. Sometimes I still go back to the old address of 16 East Main, so I have to catch myself there. Well, first of all, I want to say that it was very exciting, and it was a pleasure to meet with Carol and Heather and Diana to talk about these grant possibilities. As you're familiar, we have the City Code Upgrade Grant, which helps make the building more user viable, increase the capacity of a building. A lot of times you see that grant used for sprinkler systems for upper story housing, can be used for different things that just bring the building up to code, city code. So in our discussion, we thought that a good supplement to the code grant would be ADA accessibility, as we're thinking about downtown reconstruction and how some of the back entrances may have to be used, how they'll be important to have those so that our businesses are accepting of everybody with, if they have a disability, need accessibility measures, that it's important that we're able to offer that. We also talked about with this grant that it would also help to make bathroom facilities more compliant, help with signage and all of that. So for the first one, what we'd like to do is amend our current grant, which is a City Code Upgrade Grant, which again is normally used for sprinklers and other things like that, but to include the ADA accessibility. That grant, currently you can receive 25% up to $20,000 is reimbursable through that grant process. So that is the first option, as we're talking about ADA accessibility on the city code grant. Do you have any questions about that one? No, okay, good. Making my job easy here. The second one, I was excited about the second one. The second one is safety and security in the downtown. Three things that come up a lot. We talk about the lighting in the downtown quite a bit. We've been talking about the alleyways and safety. I frequently hear about garbage in the downtown blowing around and being unsightly. We currently have a program where we have some Department of Corrections residents that come down and help with that. But if we can be proactive with the problem, that will help with some of that of keeping our downtown looking nice, aesthetics, a place where people want to be, and feeling safe. So part of that would be refuse. Excuse me. Let me back up here. So refuse, and then also cameras. Cameras, as you know, I know that the city has talked about cameras in the downtown quite a bit. It helps, it's a proactive approach to stop crime, and then if there is crime, to help catch the perpetrator. So those are three things for safety and security. So what we're proposing is that we have, on the safety and security grant, we have three options. People, or businesses and building owners that have their businesses within the central business district would be eligible to apply for this grant. Each of those measures, the security camera, the lighting in the alleyway, or enclosing refuse, putting a fence around the dumpsters and recycling, would be reimbursable 50% up to $5,000. Each of those options, the cameras, the refuse, and the lighting, are eligible to be applied for, but we do have a max of all three of those could not be reimbursed more than $7,500, so there is a cap to it. And then also, we would limit it to, you could only apply for this once every 5 years. So this would go towards, helping with our safety, security of the downtown, how people perceive it, taking away the hidden elements in the alleyway, and it would help our community be able to do those things. Any questions about that?
Your Honor, may I? So with the safety and security option, so for those downtown eligible businesses, they would get reimbursed to do that, or it would get matched?
They would be reimbursed.
They would be, okay,
So
so they would have to
the
go.
process now for applying for, so this grant would fall underneath our incentive grants, which we have the city code and we have facade. This would be a third grant underneath that allotment of money. And so how the process is now is they would apply for the grant. They would bring the MCBD office their estimates to get for the work to be done. I would take it to a committee and review it with the committee. The committee would, if they have questions, I would go back. If they don't have questions, I would write up something to the city. City council reviews that, and once the city council has approved it, then the work can commence. Any work that is started before the grant process is not covered, and once the work is completed, the Marshalltown Central Business District or a member of the incentive committee would go back and review the work to make sure it was completed, receive copies of the paid receipts, the invoices, and do a memo of completion and submit that to the finance department. And that's how it'd be reimbursed.
Okay, so they would have to first pay for it and everything, and then go through the process
Yes.
and get it back and stuff?
Yes.
Okay, and then with these owners, Central Business District business owners, how do they usually find out about these grant opportunities? Or
Well, for the safety, how they normally find out about it is it's kind of known that it's available in the downtown. With this new one, I would do a couple different measures if it was passed. I would send it out to my email list to let them know. I can bring the materials around to the different businesses and let them know that it's available. We can post it on social media. We can put it out there so that people know that it's available.
Okay, sounds good. And I was just wondering because, I'm just wondering on the language side, because there are a lot of, when you go into the stores, or they might have a primary language in there, and it's not just Spanish, there's other languages. So I just wanted to make sure that this opportunity, letting them know that this is out there for them, and in a language that they primarily prefer to read.
I would love to be able to offer applications in every language that that we utilize in the community. I don't have the capability to do that, but I'm always willing to facilitate or help, or if I need to get a translator or use a language line or something like that, I'm always willing to do that as well.
Okay, sounds good. I think like if we were just being born here and everything, I know that, we have the buffet restaurant, with that with their language, and then the all the Spanish-speaking stores, and even the the Burmese culture stores as well. So and they've been around for decades.
Yes,
long time.
yes, and I have good relationships with most in the downtown. I can tell you that our current grant process, there have been different ethnicities and different languages that have applied for the grant, and ask questions, and we work through the process.
Sounds good. I just wanted to just touch on that, the inclusivity and the representation, and
I
all
think
of
it's
that
great
for
to
Marshawn.
advocate, so you keep doing that.
Okay.
Your Honor.
Yes.
Deb, have you canvassed any of the downtown business owners about this idea? I got a multiple part question.
Okay.
Another one, which would probably be for Diana, how much money do we have in the TIF District 4 for this? And just a statement that I think this is a good start. I think since we haven't done this before, I would entertain a higher matching percentage with a larger gross amount, because I think we need to get up to a standard that we're not at today. So I'd just like to throw that out there. But yeah, have you canvassed anybody?
Okay, so this has been turned around like within less than a week, so I really haven't had an opportunity to go out and canvass on this specifically, but I have been approached many times over the last 5 years about these specific things. Many times I've been asked about security cameras. I've never been asked about refuse, but I've had people complain about the refuse blowing around from different businesses. I've also had businesses explain to me that while reconstruction is going on in the downtown, that they are concerned of how the back of their business is going to be represented if people need to access it, and they're concerned about dumpsters and all of that, so they want to secure that. And then also these could be lockable, which may help with people digging in it and dragging it around, so I think that would help as well. And then currently we have about $95,000 sitting in our funds for this. The city allots $50,000 every year for that fund, and in the past, when we've had a lot of facades being done and city code being done, I've been able to come back and explain to the council of what was going on, and more funds was given to that. I think that we are requesting, am I for myself?
So I think we do have some dollars in the downtown TIF district. Am I correct about that? Additional dollars? Diana?
Well, you'd have to certify.
Yes, we have to go through the steps of certifying that debt, but we do have dollars. We're meeting with our TIF council tomorrow to talk about whether these would be appropriate uses of TIF funds. If not, we would recommend that we use lost funds, but we will try to use TIF if we can. Yeah.
I can add a little bit more to canvassing downtown properties. I've had direct conversations and seen quotes, heard quotes that people have gotten back for rear access improvements, for lighting and those kind of things. So we have had those discussions with certain property owners. The reason we brought this in front of you guys tonight is we wanted to make sure council was on board with this type of project so that we could announce that council is looking at doing this project at our upcoming open house, which is next Tuesday at the Coliseum. Coliseum. Doors open at 5 o'clock, a formal presentation at 5:30. But we did want to make sure council was on board with this before we rolled that out as something that we were looking at. Also wanted to clarify, as we go into this Main Street project, there's a rumor going around that we're going to require people to use their rear access. That's not true. We are going to maintain front access entry to these businesses. As a marketing tool, there are businesses who have mentioned it may be beneficial to them to use their back entrance to get people to come. So we'd like to open that up. We know some businesses have that right now. Some would like to add that as an opportunity. And so that's why that was included in this project.
Thank you, Heather.
When the Spencer fire occurred and the downtown on Grand Avenue was redone, they did make sure that there was access to the parking lots in the back. And boy, that did make it a lot better for shoppers and the shopkeepers to do it that way. So to the extent we can do that in this town, that would be great. And then you and I and some other business owners looked at the alley back here and got some good examples of where we could put lighting and cameras and make it prettier and more secure for the refuse. And already, I think next door here, YSS has a new light fixture that was put up, and there's some thought that maybe this alley could duplicate what the alley next between the Tremont and the Wax Static building did.
Yeah, I think the alleyway that crosses Main Street that comes across from the MCBD alleyway, I think that's going to be a key point for when reconstruction gets to the west end, because the parking lots are being walkable. And, we want to be to where we're having a nightlife in downtown Marshalltown, and we want people to be able to park in the parking lots and be able to walk and feel safe. So giving our businesses an incentive to do some lighting themselves in the alleyway, which we also, there are certain standards that they have to meet. They can't just go put a light out there. So we've built those into the application as well to make sure that everything is cohesive and appealing. And so, making sure that it is walkable. And Heather is absolutely right. We don't plan on closing down access to the front of buildings, but there are some that'll be easier for them to get into the building if they have rear access versus having to go all the way around. So I'm so grateful for Heather. You guys know that Heather can never go anywhere.
No kidding.
So.
No kidding. And I think I talked to the chief recently too about the flock cameras, and I learned that there is the ability of the downtown business owners to have those that will connect with the flock and have that work in the same.
That was another, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's another element of the security cameras. If the city approves this, whoever uses these the grant funds, they also agree to allow the police to have footage from these cameras if they need to get footage from the cameras. So that would help as well. Not that anybody would deny them, I wouldn't think they would, but it's built into their contract that they would need to do that.
Thank you. Questions or comments up here or out there?
I have a comment, Your Honor, or a question, excuse me.
Go for
May
it.
I?
Yes.
Deb, you said that they would not be allowed to reapply in 5 years. So if you're lumping the dumpster, the lights, and the cameras into one, if I'm a business owner and I do my dumpster, I can't apply for the lights or camera in 5 years?
You can. I didn't word that correctly. So the max amount is $7,500 in 5 years. So I didn't word that correctly.
Okay.
Jim Shaw, 522 North 2nd Street. When these flock cameras were coming in, I brought up the fact that we weren't going to use them for surveillance of people, and I was assured that the flock cameras were only going to read license plates. But we just said you wanted to look at using some of the cameras in the alleys. Are these?
I think in my discussion of it, if I interpret it right, Flock also has the kind that will be safety cameras. And I think we're switching over from the old camera system that we had through Raycom for the 3 intersections we have right now in the alley across the street over here to the east to that kind of a camera. And the newer kind of the security cameras are also going to be connectable to the Flock So
So that didn't answer my question. Are you still gonna, is it just for cars?
So I think the question is, all those existing ones that were spread around.
30-some
Captain
cameras?
Tupper, Chief Tupper, those are still just license plate readers.
Right.
These are tying to the software system at the police station that would let them see other things.
Correct?
Oops, sorry. I didn't see you there. You snuck up.
Just to clarify, the flock camera discussion is not part of this discussion. The cameras that we're talking about here are private property cameras. So if they choose to use Ring, if they choose to use Lorex, if they choose to use a different system, it is their choice. We are not requiring them to install flock cameras in their buildings to be eligible for this grant application.
But I heard her say that they were gonna be tied in with the Flock system.
Flock cameras, Flock is a brand, okay? So the city has gone into business with Flock for license plate reader cameras that we currently use. Flock does sell security cameras to both government and private entities. So if a business downtown wanted to buy a Flock camera, they could, but they still have the control over the camera and the data. So oftentimes when we're investigating a crime, we will knock on doors and we will ask people if they have security camera footage, Ring, whatever the brand might be. And oftentimes it's very rare that we knock on a door anymore that somebody doesn't have some sort of camera. And usually they will share the footage. That doesn't mean the police department has surveillance capability or direct control over the footage. But if people will share, that's great. What I do recommend, though, is I see this frequently, especially with businesses. They try to cut corners with cameras, and you get a very poor result because the quality of the images that they want to share with you are not good. So if you're going to invest in cameras, cameras are fairly inexpensive anymore, quite honestly, but you make sure you get something that provides a quality product, because if we get a grainy video that shows nothing, then it's useless. But we are not advocating for a surveillance system in downtown Marshalltown.
Okay, so Flock cameras aren't gonna have that capability. That's all I needed. Thank you.
Other questions or comments?
Your Honor?
Yes.
Just a comment here. I would echo what Councilman Schneider said about maybe looking at enhanced limits or increased limits. I think in the interest of time for Tuesday's discussion, I think we can discuss if we pass this or propose to give staff direction and then further bakes, some of those details specific to the spending limits, what type of technology is approved, all those things. But I believe this is a great first step, and we can work towards a final product that achieves all the intended goals.
If there aren't any other questions or comments by,
Excuse me. Kathy Steinberg, 309 Summit Street. I just want to reiterate, if I didn't make it clear about the help that Des Moines getting from their energy company. It's solar lighting, and they're putting up panels and all that, and the energy company is maintaining them and paying for it. And I just hope in this whole deal, we don't assume that Alliant won't help. Somebody needs to ask them and ask them to partner for a lot of this lighting improvement downtown and in the neighborhoods, particularly the higher crime places. Thank you.
I was going to say, if there aren't any other comments, questions up here or out there, I'd entertain a motion to direct staff.
I make a motion to direct staff to move forward with this.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Fonseca,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottiehoff,
Yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Nichols.
Yes.
Great. We've had a good partnership between the city and CBD, so thank you for doing that. Okay. With that, we have to go into closed session to talk about real estate, so there's some proviso I'm probably supposed to read to do that, but in the meantime, we need a motion for going into closed session.
So moved, Your Honor.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Fonseca,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Bodyhoff,
Yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Nichols.
Yes.
We'll go into closed session. Probably a bad time for
Yeah,
somebody
you're
to
right.
solicit us about.